Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Songs of Selah here on 17 Numa Radio. I'm your host, Scott Thomas Outler, and I want to thank everyone for tuning in and listening live this evening. For those who are listening in the archive later on, thank you as well. It is Monday, June the 24th, 2019. The summer season is now fully upon us. I hope that everyone enjoyed a happy summer solstice recently, and that this new season in the months ahead treats you with inspiration and kindness. The summer season of storms is also fully upon us here in the area of Georgia where I live. A couple of nights ago, the electricity went out around this time, and it was actually a bit of a refreshing experience. Went out for a walk through the city with all the lights being out, and there's a bit of an eerie calmness that permeated through the atmosphere at the time. Then on my way back home, the electricity cut back on, and it was an interesting sight to see all the lights flash from the traffic lights to the park to the houses down the streets off of the main road where I was walking, all pop back on. Gave me a moment to pause and reflect and really be appreciative of this technological wonderland that we truly live in modern society. Something that's often, I believe, taken for granted until we're forced into a position to actually think about it and the amazing nature of the world that we live in. People were even shooting off firecrackers around my house in celebration of the lights returning, which I guess means that there is cause and reason to celebrate even the most minor details of life. So, there was also a storm earlier tonight just before the show started, but thankfully the electricity is still on and flowing. We're live and rolling smooth, and I thank you once again for joining the program. Looking forward to tonight's episode. Coming up in the next segment, I'll be joined by the guest this evening, Erika Renee Land, who is an author that I met here in the Atlanta area at an event earlier this year, the UUCA Wine, Cheese, and Spoken Word event that is hosted by Carol Douglas, who is a past guest here on the program. And so after hearing Erika's performance that night, definitely wanted to get her on the program to talk more about her work, and that will be coming up shortly. Do want to encourage listeners to follow 17 Numa Radio. It's quick and free and easy. Just click on the follow button found above the slideshow here on the page where the episode is streaming, and that will get you set up for links to all of the upcoming episodes. On that note, if you would like to appear as a future guest here on Songs of Selah, you can reach out to me at 17numa@gmail.com or connect with me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter and send me a message there. Always looking to bring people onto the show who are inspired by whatever work they're doing in the world, whether you're an artist, a writer, a musician, a farmer, a gardener, a knitter, a weaver, a philosopher, a teacher, whatever you're doing in the world, if you're inspired by it and passionate, I want to hear from you, because every one of us has an interesting story to tell, and that's something I'm learning more and more as this program continues. Also, here at the top of the program, I wanted to mention that I'm guest editing an anthology of poetry for Culture Cult Press at the moment, and submissions are still open for the next week until the end of June. You can find those submission guidelines and full details about the anthology, which is on the theme of hope and hopelessness, at the Culture Cult Press website, or there is also a link in a new post at my website, 17numa.com. So send in your submissions, and please do share that link with anyone else who you feel might be interested in the theme. Do definitely appreciate that. The anthology is set to be released in a couple of months, and I'm looking forward to reading through all the work that comes in here once July starts up. So, June is the 5-year anniversary of when I started publishing poems back in 2014. My first poem ever was published at the social justice newsletter called Dissident Voice, operated by Angie Tibbs out of Canada. And since that moment, I have continued to be a weekly contributor ever since. And when that journey started 5 years ago, I decided that I was finally going to take the plunge and start up social media accounts. So I did so on Facebook and Twitter at the time. And over these past 5 years, I've been posting fairly regularly, a lot of times every single day, about publications and other adventures and activities that have taken place during the journey so far. And it's been a great way to connect with like-minded individuals and share my work and to get feedback. And overall, I think social media is basically just a tool that we can use in whatever way we deem fit. And so the experience has been positive. But there is also the side of it that can drag us in, suck us in to the systems. And so I think it's a healthy idea to take a step back every once in a while. And really, for the first time in these 5 years, I've done that recently, taking a breath of fresh air, focusing on some other aspects of my life. And I'm sure I'll get back to it not too long from now, but this little sabbatical has been something that I'm very thankful for. And with that in mind, I thought I would read a poem here at the beginning of the show tonight from my book, Abstract Visions of Light, which was released in 2018 by Alien Buddha Press. It's a poem that is about social media, and it was inspired by the song Disillusioned by A Perfect Circle off of their album Eat the Elephant last year. And I will dive into that now. It's called It's a Matter of Record/Opinion. Tell me something meaningful and make sure I believe it before you double down my debts. Then dance in your pride and vanity. Then dance in your ignorance and vanity. Then dance in your shaken identity. Then dance, then dance, then dance in vanity. Pat yourself on the back, pat me on the back, pat myself on the back, pat you on the back, pat us on the back, pat we on the back, pat them on the back. I take it all back, I take it all. Thin air, thin air, thin air. There are ghosts in the system, ghosts in the visions, ghosts in the world, ghosts in your pores, ghosts pouring out, smoke in your eyes, smoke in your hair, smoke on your tongue, fire in your lungs, fire in your heart, fire, fire, fire always burns. Thin ice, thin ice, thin ice. All your sins have been collected from a life you didn't live, so pray to the gods of big data and confess that your days have been numbered, drifting through the endless stream, scrolling through the timelines of life, searching for the source to find connection. Tell me something meaningful in every single moment, and make sure I buy, but never sell. Out and down, down and out. Never doubt, never doubt, never doubt that there is destiny and there is dust in the thin air, thin air, thin air. So once again, that was It's a Matter of Record/Opinion. And now we're going to go to a quick music break with the song that it was inspired by, Disillusioned by A Perfect Circle. And then on the other side, we'll be back with tonight's guest, Erika Renee Land. So stay tuned.
to hide away with your back to the ground. Didn't reconnect to the resonance now. You were never an island. You, me, voice among melody in this choir. Tuning into each other, lift all higher.
All right, welcome back to Songs of Selah here on 17 Numa Radio. That was Disillusioned by A Perfect Circle. And without further ado, I want to get to tonight's guest. Erika Renee Land is an American 21st century war poet, known for her numerous essays, fiction novels, various poetry collections, and being a civil rights activist. As a war poet, Erika channels her experiences of being deployed to Mosul, Iraq, to help with Operation Iraqi Freedom into dynamic poetry that takes the reader on a journey emotionally and physically. She has published 2 books of poetry. The first was Residual Effects with fellow veteran Katisha Smitic that juxtaposes their similar experiences by meshing poetry and photography. And the second book, George's Dam, embodies Erika's struggles with post-traumatic stress disorder that takes you to the very spots where she created most of her poetry. Her first fiction series, It's Complicated, highlights the struggles of interpersonal relationships, and her latest book, Of an Artist, highlights various mental and emotional states that artists tend to deal with on their creative journeys. As a civil rights activist, she travels, giving the opening speeches for marches, and is also a member of the NAACP, the National Organization for Women, and the Alliance for Justice, to name just a few. So thank you very much for joining the program here tonight, Erika. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing tonight?
Doing fairly well, thank you. Glad to have you on the program. And
thank you. I'm glad to be on.
Very cool. A lot packed into your bio there that we can go through here in the next couple of segments. And I guess start off maybe talking a little bit about your personal journey going through the war and how that led you into writing and poetry, or was that something that you were already inspired by before that happening?
I guess was inspired after I returned from the war by post-traumatic stress disorder. I needed a way to let out all of the negative thoughts and feelings that I had about the war in myself, and that came by way of writing. So, I joined the military right out of high school, and I went in, and things were going pretty well until I deployed to Mosul, Iraq in 2005 and had to deal with war as a 21-year-old going on 22.
So that experience of entering into the military, was that something that you had anticipated doing earlier in your life, or coming out of high school, was it just something that presented itself?
It was just something that presented itself straight out of high school. I was in a military town, and the opportunity was there, and so it was kind of a why not. So,
right.
I joined, and I'm glad that I did join, but you never know the curveballs that life are going to throw your way, and PTSD came my way.
So during that time over there and then returning and having the emotional distress that came out of it, you say that you turned to the writing and the poetry as a sort of, I guess, therapeutic process to help through what you were dealing with. How has that affected your life, and how does the writing help?
Okay. Post-traumatic stress disorder For me, I nickname it the path to self-destruction because that's exactly what I was doing. When I went overseas, I was in the medical field. I was a pharmacy technician. And so there was a lot of death and a lot of hurt people and hurt souls that I had to deal with on a daily basis. And while you're at war, and sometimes in the military in general, you don't get a chance to process your feelings. And you can't really show the mental distress that you're under or duress that you're under because you're in the military. You're expected, to just push through and suck it up and everything's going to be okay. And so after being stuck in that mode for a year, you really unlearn quickly how to deal with things. And so not being able to process my emotions, they were all over the place when I came back with, just common day situations would just make me extremely angry. Not in, I'm going to start cursing to the point of anger. It was the point of blacking out type anger that people sometimes go through, which is not a normal instance or to go through if someone just cuts you off in traffic. That's a bit extreme to go to that level of just being enraged. But it was because I didn't know how to express myself the correct way anymore. And it led to a real cycle of just depression and me hurting other people, me not understanding what was going on. And so that led to me feeling lost a lot. And that went on for years. And then while I was attending the University of Georgia, in one of my English classes, we were going over 20th century war poets. And I came across a poet, and when I read his poem, it just really struck me because I understood exactly what he was going through, even though, it was like World War One. And then so that had been on my mind, and then I was having a really bad down moment where I picked up some pen and paper, and I was in my head going to write a suicide note, but instead a poem came out. And that really sparked the beginning of me being able to express myself.
Wow, what an incredible flash moment in time in your life to have that extreme dichotomy turned on by that experience with art and with poetry. And I can imagine what a hard experience it is for everyone coming from that survival mode atmosphere of being in the thrust of war and then coming back to a modern society and trying to find your peace once again. And can you talk a little bit more from that moment on when you had that almost revelation, it sounds like, where your journey went from there?
Oh man, it's just been a whirlwind of great things. As bad as things were, things are like 1,000 times better now. I was able to write my first poem, which is actually war songs. And in that poem, there's so much packed into it, but they are my real feelings and things that I've gone through. Like, all of my war poetry are factual. They're factual. Either it happened to me or someone close to me. And so just being able to do that and to show it to someone and sit down and break down what each of these different things meant. I had a therapist that I was able to show and talk to about it. And then that therapist said, well, maybe we need to put you into some type of writing therapy program. And it just opened up a door that was unexpected, but it was a great door, and it really changed my life.
And so entering into that writing therapy program and continuing to process your emotions in that way, how did that eventually lead you to putting a collection of poems together, and what was that process like? Had you ever even considered writing a book at any point in your life before that, or was it just something that naturally flowed from what you were going through?
It naturally flowed. I never in a million years would have thought that I would have been a writer. My focus was the medical field before I went into the military, and once I got out. But then I started writing, and I had to, have honest conversations with myself and just stop going through the motions of what I thought I was supposed to do or what other people wanted me to do, and be like, hey, I'm going to be a writer. And it was hard for me to understand and hard for people around me to understand because it seemed like it did come out of the blue. But that's how much writing changed my life. And so I just would write whenever the emotion struck me. I would just write it down, and it just started coming out as these amazing poems. And I showed it to someone, and I think they said, you should put this in a book. And then I was talking to Katisha, which we were deployed together. We lived right across from each other the whole time. She was in a different part of the country being a photographer. And that's what she started using to help with her symptoms. And so her photography and my poetry just matched up beautifully. And it may be because we went through a lot of the same experiences at the same time. So even though we were not even aware of what the other one was creating, when we came together, it just matched up so well.
It's always a wonderful part of life to be able to collaborate, especially when you connect on a deep level like what the two of you went through on that project. And so what was the feeling like after you've started writing now out of nowhere, out of the blue, and surprising everyone around you, and then to have this collection come together? How did that feel when that went out into the world, and what was the initial response that you received?
Oh, it felt amazing because for so long I felt like I was just destroying myself in relationships and just being a ball of destruction. So to actually put something together that was good, that could help other people, it like a burden just started being lifted off of me, and I was able to find value again. So it was received well by other people. Like, they were like, wow, this is really amazing. Like, this is a true vision of what soldiers go through, and a lot of times we don't hear that story. And so it just was, people were able to have a conversation with me, like a lot of friends and family, about it that they weren't able to have before because they didn't know what was going on. So this book gave them a window into what I'd been through. And then together we all found a way to, repair and heal. They were casualties of the war as well, even though they didn't go over there, just having to deal with everything that I brought back with me.
Opening up that channel where you could all connect again, that's a very beautiful thing, the healing power that art can have in people's lives. It's inspiring
Absolutely.
to hear. And are you still actively deployed by the military in any fashion, or how have you moved on from that stage of your life since? And are there any organizations with veterans that you work with to bring writing or art in general into the conversation?
So I am not in the military anymore. I was discharged on a medical in 2009, and so I haven't had to do anything or be recalled back. Right now, I'm trying to find different homeless veterans programs to work with, so that I can go talk to them about my art and say, I use this to ease my mind. because a lot of times, like, there are a lot of homeless veterans, and a lot of times it's just that mental weight of not wanting to deal with anything, and then the depression and the life issues and not knowing how to overcome it and not wanting to overcome it, can sometimes lead to that. Not in every circumstance, but sometimes. And so I just want to go and try to talk to them and let them know, hey, you got to try to let some of this stuff out. You're not a bad person. Circumstances and being in the military led us to do the things that we had to do. So I'm just trying to find just anyone really I can talk to, whether it's veterans or civilians, about the issue, because it's not just about helping only veterans. For me, there are a lot of veterans, and the general public has to interact with them. So I'm trying to also educate them so that they can be a little more cautious when it comes to interacting with their neighbor, because you don't know what people have been through.
That's a great point. The PTSD aspect, and then just also the general depression that people suffer in life. You never know what people are going through. And so it's great to, when you find your gift or feel that light and that inspiration that you did when you came upon poetry, to then reflect that back out in the outer world and shine the light that you've been given back to other people, because you never know who you're going to inspire and trigger in the correct way to maybe help them along in dealing with the harsh realities of the world. And so with the writing also comes the performance aspect of your poetry. I mean, we met at the UUCA event earlier this year when you were performing, and I wonder, when did that aspect of it come into play, and have you always been someone comfortable in front of a crowd, or is that another skill that you've just learned to develop?
It's a skill I've learned to develop. Yeah. I don't know. It was just something, I guess, magical going on at that moment where I started finding myself again, and I said, I'm not going to let anything hold me back in life anymore. And there was a specific incident where I'm in a sorority, and I had to get up and do a speech in front of people, and I just bombed it. I was, shaking and sweating, and I didn't want to ever go through that again. And so I started taking that one poem around and reading it in front of people as much as I could, and then eventually the paper stopped shaking so much when I was holding it, and then eventually I was able to put the paper down and actually recite the poems. So...
Absolutely. That's that growth process that any one of us who's ever gotten in front of a group of people knows, that it's a stage progression that we have to go through to get to that point where you're comfortable. And I commend you for having the bravery and the courage to go through that, and really enjoyed the performance that you gave earlier this year when I met you, and that was just a piece of a larger production that you've been working on. Could you talk a little bit about the project that you are currently writing? I believe it's a play of some sort.
It is. It's a one-woman stage play titled PTSD and Me, A Journey Told Through Poetry. And so what it is, it's me mixing prose with the poetry, and speaking to the crowd about my experiences and how I used art therapy to overcome a lot of my struggles, and, just trying to educate the public about post-traumatic stress disorder. So it's about a 45 to 60-minute show of me performing, and then I'll do a question and answer afterwards, and then there'll, be something really special that happens at the end. So it's a project that I'm really, really proud of, because for so long I felt like I did not have a voice, and I did not want to share with people what was going on because I didn't want to damage them. And so now, having written it and, listened to the way that I've touched people and giving them a true insight of what happened, it's a firsthand account. It's not through the media, and you only get to see certain aspects. I'm just really proud to go out there and show this is where, art therapy has taken me. I kind of lost my train of thought there a second. Hold on, sorry. So the project as a whole, it's been like a long time coming. I started working on it, and I feel like now I have it to the place where I want it, and it tells a clear story for the audience. And so they can, to the point where they can be entertained, and they'll also take something away from it. And my overall goal is to start a community conversation. I want people to have a better understanding of these symptoms and what you might see on a day-to-day basis from someone. And then hopefully they'll be able to reach their hand out and help. Or if someone is struggling from the symptoms, hopefully they'll, find a way to let out the feelings that they have, to channel it in a positive way. So I think it's going to be, it's an amazing show. It's an amazing show, and I hope as many people get to see it as possible.
Where is it going to be playing, and how long have you been working on it, and where's the debut of the full show going to be?
So I've been working on it for about 3 or 4 years. I've only performed it twice, but the show wasn't where I would have liked it to be. And so it's been revamped, and it is amazing now. And so it's going to be at the Atlanta Black Theater Festival during the first week of October. And that's going to be at the Porter Sanford out here in Atlanta. So you can find tickets for it on Eventbrite. You put in PTSD and me, and it should come up.
Okay, very cool. Hope to be able to catch that later this year in the Atlanta area for sure.
I have a ticket for you, Scott.
Oh, thank you. I'll definitely be there then. The portion of the show that I saw earlier this year was, I guess you have it in several different stages that you go through during the show, and this aspect was touching more on your early life as a child. And so I'm wondering, when this avenue of expressing yourself came out through the PTSD and the war poetry, did that also send you back into even deeper journey and chronicling your entire life now as almost a memoir?
I think about writing a memoir sometimes. Right now, I'm not at that point. But, we all go through things in life. And so my healing process with PTSD, like you said, has made me delve into myself deeper and go as far back as I can remember and think about all these different things that have happened and these traumas that I've experienced, and I look for ways to heal from them. And so in writing this and finding out more about myself, like I have this deep need to try to save as many people as I can save. Right. I'm the type of person, if someone gets in a car accident, in front of me, I am out of the car trying to save them. I'm the kind of person, if I see you crying, walking down the street, I'm going to offer a hug to you. And so just going back and thinking about, when did life start changing in the realities of what life is. When did that really start hitting me? And that was when I was in middle school. And people, you find out who people are in the different struggles that they go through. Everything isn't, cotton candy and bubble gum. People have real issues. And sometimes other people's issues hit you when you're not ready for them. So I just talk about the experiences that I went through of, dealing with people who were on drugs and how that affected me, and then thinking about how me having PTSD affected other people.
So this process of getting to the point you're at now and being established here in Georgia, I know that we talked a little bit about some of the traveling you had done over the last couple of years. Can you talk about maybe some of the experiences you've had performing in different states and traveling in the United States, and some of the people or experiences you've met and had during that time?
Yeah, it has been amazing. It's when you live in a city, you always take that city for granted. You don't really go out and see the sights and what it really has to offer, and then when you leave, you're like, man, I should have done that. And so when I think about America, that's what I think about. Like, there's so much out here to see, but we tend to just stay in our little bubbles. And so I just travel as much as I can, and I currently live in an RV so that I can travel. And so I performed in New York, Maryland, D.C., Virginia, South Carolina, Georgia, Texas, Louisiana, and I'm just trying to go all over. Like, I have dates set up through next year where we're, going to be going out to Vegas and then down to Florida, back up to New York, just trying to see everything along the way. So I go and perform, and I get to meet people and other poets and, collaborate with them, like on the spot doing something. And then I also get to take in the cities and see what's out there, what that city has to offer, and put it on my YouTube channel.
Let's talk a little bit about that YouTube channel. I know you had talked about maybe even starting up a type of blog at some point with your RV experiences, and that's something that really fascinates me because it's always been a dream of mine to do exactly that, live out of an RV and travel around. So I'm really interested in hearing what life on the road is like, and that aspect of it almost seems very freeing to me, and just to be able to live that sort of lifestyle. And how does it compare to how you were living before then?
Right. It is truly amazing. So our YouTube channel, it's called Lands Across America. And we give you a pretty good overview of what it's like our maintenance issues we have to go through, accidents that we've had, the different places we get to see, traveling down the road. You really get to go on this journey with us because my wife and I, we are new to RVing. We've only been doing it 2 years. And so you get to see, how we didn't even know that certain things we had. Like we didn't, find out till 1.5 years that we had remote start on our truck. So it's just like those little things like that, or we didn't know how to use the 4-wheel drive when we got the RV stuck and almost toppled it over. So, it's you get a pretty good overview of what it's like to live in an RV, one of the ones that you pull. And it's just been fun. And I wouldn't trade it for the world. We lived in an apartment, and we had all of this stuff. And then when it came time to move into the RV, we got to the point where we were just giving everything away. It was just like, it's free, come get it. We don't have anywhere to put it. We can't take it with us. And then 6 months into living in the RV, I don't even remember half of the stuff that was in the apartment.
Right.
It's like we accumulate all of these things to fill up a space. But most of the time we don't need those things.
Yeah, it's almost searching outward in this material world. We collect gadgets and technology and baubles and trinkets and all these things, trying to fill that space you're talking about, but it's really the inward journey and then the experiences that we have with other people and the relationships in the world that matter the most and are the highest connection. So really think that's an interesting journey that you're on. And give that YouTube channel out one more time. What's the name of it?
Lands, Lands, Across America.
Okay. Lands
Yeah.
Across
And
America.
It's sorry about that. Lands Across America.
All right. Well, I
and
encourage everyone to go. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I stepped on you twice there.
I was just going to say it's very important for us to keep those connections with people, especially the way that technology is progressing. So.
Absolutely. It's that's something I had mentioned in the opening segment here with social media and the technology of the world today. It's important to take a breath of fresh air from those sorts of things and just focus on the relationships and interpersonal connections that we have in the world. And art and poetry is certainly a great way to do that. And so how do you, I guess on that note, deal with social media and your website and staying connected with people online while you're also living your life in general?
That's the hard part for me. Like I loathe all the technology some days because I know I needed to, keep in contact with people and keep people informed and everything, but I would rather not. Because especially living in the RV, there's so much out there, Like you don't realize how much you miss out on things. Like we were way out in the middle of nowhere in Texas, and then all of these turkeys, it had to be about 20 to 30 turkeys just came out and were walking by the RV. And I was like, what the hell is that? Because I'd never seen a turkey that big. Like they were almost the size of ostriches, like a baby ostrich. Like they were huge. And it's just like I wouldn't have done that if I had just stayed, in San Antonio and just on the computer and everything all the time. There's just so much that we miss about the natural world. So
it really is the call to adventure and the hero's journey, that if you just accept it and start walking through the open doors, you never really know where life could take you and what sort of experiences you might have that you never even expected would open up, and the possibilities of this life are so limitless. And I think what you're talking about here tonight is a perfect example of that. And I think we've got about 10 minutes left in the show here. We've talked about your war poetry, but you also have a couple of other books out, or a few other books for that matter. Would you like to maybe talk a little bit about those and where people can find them?
So you can find all of my books on anywhere you can download a book, you can find them. If you would like to get a paperback copy, you can get that on Amazon. And you can also go to my website, ericarland.com, and find copies of everything and purchase those. I have 2 fiction novels out. That's just like a romance novel. I thought it'd be fun to write one, and so I did, and people got a kick out of it. So I need to go ahead and finish that series soon. I'm probably within the next 2 years, I need to get one out. And then last year I published a book titled Of an Artist, which is a really cool book for me. It's a very short book, maybe 35 pages, but it's talking about the experience of an artist. And so it's for artists to read and for non-artists to read to get some perspective of an artist. So from an artist standpoint, these are some of the mental states that you're going to go through and some of the things you'll have to deal with along your journey and how to stay grounded. And then, just if you're not an artist, it's just, like I said, giving that insight into these are some of the things that happen. So it's pretty cool. I like it.
All those sound definitely interesting, and I think there's an overlap with artists. The emotional states and the deepness or the richness that we go into them with might be a little more extreme sometimes than other people do, but it's still that basic inherent experience of being human that overlaps there. So I think that's a great journey that you can take anyone on with that most recent book of yours. So I encourage everyone to check out your website, erikaarland.com, and your Lands Across America YouTube channel. And maybe here at the end, talk a little bit about any more upcoming events that you have in your sites that you're excited about and what the rest of 2019 and beyond looks like for you.
Oh, man, there's just so much. All right, so I do have a book that should be coming out soon. I'm waiting on a publisher to get back to me called My ADHD Mind. And that's it's my own anthology. It's poetry, fiction, shorts, like just commentary, just some of everything that I have written over the past couple years. I just threw it all into one book, and it shows my just mental progression and the different things that I write to, going from struggling with PTSD a lot to now I'm writing about more social and political things. So that'll be pretty cool. I have a couple of speeches to go out and do. Like I have to actually go speak at a men's prison on Friday. And then I started doing music recently. So I have a couple of concerts to do. And then in October with the Atlanta Black Theater Festival, that will be the official launch of the PTSD and Me stage play tour. And we're just going next year, just touring the play for as long as we can.
Awesome. So much exciting stuff coming up for you. It's happy to hear about that, and wish you all the best with the launch of the play that you've got coming out. I know that's going to be a wonderful experience for you and for everyone who gets to watch it and receive the message that you have to convey out of that. And want to invite you back on the program again maybe later this year after that takes place and talk about that experience some more and all the other exciting projects that you have on. But thanks so much for joining the program here tonight, Erika.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and congratulations on everything, and have a great rest of your summer. Hope to see you soon.
Yes, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, so that's Erika Renee Land joining the program here tonight. Hope that everyone will go check out her website, erikaarland.com, and her YouTube channel that she talked about. Lots of fun stuff and an important message overall that she's giving, shining her light outward back into the world, and that's a beautiful thing to see. And I want to thank everyone for tuning in to Songs of Selah here tonight. I hope that you have a great rest of the week ahead. Going to be back with the next episode on June the 29th with Martha Boone, another Georgia author who's going to be on the program to talk about her novel. And until then, I hope everyone does well. And we're going to end the show with David Gray and Draw the Line. See you next time. Selah. 1, 2, 3, 4.
need to take evasive action when the rumpus starts